Hello everyone, and welcome to my YNR Official 24 channel. Kane is getting back at Phyllis. He is doing something to set his partner up for a big failure. This is going to be a problem for his partner because of what Kane is doing to Phyllis. Kane and Phyllis have a lot of history. It looks like Kane is trying to hurt her. This could be very bad for the people around them, Kane's partner. Kane is retaliating against Phyllis. It is going to cause a lot of trouble. Kane Ashby is playing a game when it comes to getting back at Phyllis Summers. I think Kane Ashby is setting up his partner for a big disappointment. People who watch YNR will remember that Phyllis Summers lied a lot after she took the AI program and gave it to Victor Newman. Phyllis Summers pretended she did not do anything for a very long time instead of telling Kane Ashby the truth he wanted to hear, so Kane Ashby said he would get revenge. A lot of things have happened since then. Maybe things are not what they seem with Kane Ashby and Phyllis Summers. Kane Ashby is still thinking about Phyllis Summers and what she did to him. I think YNR loves doing stories where someone is secretly controlling someone. So, do you think Kane is still looking for ways to get back at Phyllis? It was really weird how Kane suddenly changed his mind and started working with Phyllis. There are some reasons to question why Kane is being so friendly with Phyllis all of a sudden. One minute Kane was telling Phyllis to leave him alone. The next minute, he was sharing this big secret with her about a special AI program that could cause trouble at Newman Enterprises. Kane was being really nice to Phyllis. That is just not like him. I mean, Kane and Phyllis were not getting along and then Kane tells Phyllis about this secret AI program that could hurt Newman Enterprises. It is true that Kane was really upset because Lily Winters was leaving town and his kids were officially cutting ties with Kane. Kane may also blame Phyllis for what happened. You see, Phyllis encouraged the side of Kane, the Aristotle Dumas side of Kane. Lily Winters saw Kane and Phyllis kiss again before she visited Kane on New Year's Eve. Even though Lily Winters later kissed Kane, it was not enough to make her stay with Kane. She still pushed Kane away, told him she was leaving Genoa City. Kane is probably still thinking about what happened with Lily Winters and Phyllis. Kane might think that Phyllis is to blame for the problems she caused and for messing up the progress he made with Lily. If Kane really feels this way, then Phyllis could be in trouble because Kane might want revenge against Phyllis. Phyllis is getting what she wanted, which is a victory, and she can brag about it. This is a deal for Phyllis. Kane and Phyllis have a lot of history, and Kane might still be upset with Phyllis for what she did to him and to his relationship with Lily. We are hearing that Phyllis really wants this. She has wanted it for a very long time. What if Kane just takes it away from Phyllis in the end, and Phyllis has to deal with a lot of pain? Phyllis even seemed a little surprised that Kane was including Phyllis in his plan. There is no reason why Kane has to include Phyllis. Phyllis does not have any agreement with Kane that says Phyllis will get what Phyllis wants, even though Kane keeps saying that Phyllis will get what Phyllis wants. We could certainly imagine a scenario where Kane lets Phyllis get all comfy in the CEO chair at Newman and then announces the throne was never going to be hers. Kane might have Phyllis barred from the building and make it clear that this is the revenge he's been waiting for. Phyllis's victory could turn into a loss so fast it'll make her head spin. Whatever the case, something feels a little fishy about Phyllis and Kane's alliance at this point. Does Phyllis need to watch her back? Kane wants to give Newman Media to Billy Abbott as a way to get back at Adam Newman. This could mean Billy Abbott will take Adam Newman's job. If Kane Ashby does this, it will make Adam Newman very angry. On the January 13th episode of YNR, Kane talked to Phyllis Summers about how he wants to help Billy Abbott. Phyllis Summers thinks this is an idea, but Kane Ashby can see that Billy Abbott is really upset because he did not get to be part of the plan to get back at Adam Newman. Billy Abbott is hurting because he wants his revenge. Kane Ashby thinks Newman Media can be a gift to help Billy Abbott feel better. Kane still feels something for Billy because he once pretended to be his brother. He does not want to leave Billy with nothing. Kane has not said what he wants to give to Billy. We can think of something good. Adam used Newman Media to make a deal about Jabot's problems, which caused trouble for Billy and Sally Spectra when they were launching Abbott Communications. The news about Jabot was so big that it took all the attention. Billy was not happy about this. Kane wants to give Billy something because Kane cares about Billy. Billy was very upset when Adam used Newman Media to hurt him and Sally Spectra. The rivalry between Adam and Billy has been going on for years. It is still going strong. Billy really wants to get at Adam and make him suffer. Billy also wants to be part of the plan to get revenge on Victor Newman. Billy has a lot of experience with media companies. So maybe Kane will give Billy control of Newman Media. Now Kane is ready to talk to Billy about what's going to happen next. Kane may make Billy an offer that Billy will not be able to say no to. The rivalry between Adam and Billy is a part of this. Billy and Adam have been fighting for years. It makes sense that Kane will give the Newman Media control to Billy at some point now that this takeover plan is going on. Billy can combine Newman Media with Abbott Communications. Make a really big media company. This could make Billy very happy. He will probably tease Adam about it soon. Of course, Sally Spectra might not be happy about this. She does not like that Adam listens to Victor. Sally Spectra also knows that doing something bad to get back at someone is not right. So Sally Spectra may say that Billy is being mean and vindictive and that he is getting involved in Kane's problems with Phyllis. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Sally will get some troubling updates and clash with Billy later during the week of January 12th to 16th. So don't miss all the escalating drama. Kane Ashby and Phyllis Summers, two of the most calculating and emotionally scarred players on the board, finally find themselves trapped with no allies left, no exits open, and Victor Newman standing before them with cold eyes, a steady hand, and a lifetime of vengeance behind that trigger finger. And in that instant the air feels thick with history as Victor doesn't just see Kane and Phyllis as they are now, but as the sum total of every scheme, every lie, every humiliation, and every threat they've ever posed to his empire, his family, and his legacy, while Kane's confidence begins to crack under the weight of the realization that his clever manipulations and double crosses have led him exactly where he swore he would never be again, at the mercy of Victor Newman. Yet even cornered, Kane's mind races, searching for one last angle, one last truth or half-truth he can weaponize, because Kane has always survived by talking his way out of the impossible, even as Phyllis, standing beside him, feels a very different kind of fear, the kind that crawls under the skin and whispers that this time her legendary resilience, her sharp tongue, and her ability to pivot won't save her, because Victor isn't here to negotiate or intimidate, he's here to end a war, and the look on his face tells her that he's already decided what the price will be. Phyllis tries to mask her panic with defiance, her voice sharp as she taunts Victor, reminding him that she knows things, damaging things that could destroy what little stability his family has left, invoking Nick, Victoria, Adam, and the fragile threads holding the Newmans together. But Victor doesn't flinch, because he's heard threats before and buried people who made them, and as he steps closer the tension becomes unbearable, with Kane finally snapping that Victor is no better than they are, that he's built his empire on fear and blood and manipulation, accusing him of being willing to destroy anyone who gets in his way, and Victor, in a chilling calm that's far more terrifying than rage, agrees, because Victor Newman has never pretended to be a hero, only a survivor, and survivors do what's necessary. Memories flood the scene like ghosts as Victor recalls how Kane infiltrated his world, played loyal when it suited him, then betrayed him without hesitation, how Phyllis aligned herself with anyone who promised power or protection, how she's turned on friends and lovers alike, how both of them crossed lines that could never be uncrossed, and as Victor raises the gun, slowly, deliberately, it's clear this isn't a spur-of-the-moment act but a calculated decision, one he believes will finally silence two voices that have haunted his every move. Kane's bravado collapses completely as he begs, not for himself, but by offering information, claiming he is proof of a betrayal within the Newman family that could destroy Victor far more effectively than any bullet ever could, and for a split second Victor hesitates, that dangerous pause where anything can happen, while Phyllis seizes the moment, her voice breaking as she insists that killing them will only prove that he's exactly the monster his enemies say he is, that Nick will never forgive him, that the blood on his hands will poison his family beyond repair, and in that moment the scene becomes more than a standoff. It becomes a psychological war, with Victor forced to confront whether his legacy will be one of absolute control or irreversible loss. The tension spikes as footsteps echo in the distance, suggesting someone else may be close, raising the stakes even higher, because if this confrontation is witnessed, everything changes and Kane, sensing the shift, presses harder, revealing a shocking secret about a hidden alliance, a financial manipulation, or a betrayal that implicates someone Victor trusts. Something so explosive that it could tear Genoa City apart, and Phyllis backs him up, confirming just enough to make it believable, her eyes locked on Victor's as if daring him to pull the trigger now that doubt has been planted. Victor's hand tightens, his jaw clenches, and the audience can almost feel the weight of the decision pressing down on him, because if he shoots, Kane and Phyllis become martyrs and the truth may die with them, or explode later in an even more destructive way. But if he doesn't, he risks letting two of his most dangerous enemies live to strike again, and this is the cruel paradox that has defined Victor Newman's life, that mercy can be as deadly as ruthlessness. Time seems to slow as Victor lowers the gun just an inch, not enough to signal surrender, but enough to show that Kane's words have hit their mark, and Phyllis exhales shakily, realizing that fear has given her clarity, that survival now depends not on bravado but on strategy, while Kane, sensing victory slipping just within reach, pushes one last time, warning Victor that the world is watching, even if he can't see them yet, that secrets never stay buried in Genoa City, and that this moment will define him forever. The scene crackles with unresolved tension as Victor finally speaks, his voice low and deadly, telling them that their lives are not spared, only postponed, that they will pay for what they've done in ways far worse than death. And as he turns away, leaving Kane and Phyllis shaking in the aftermath, it's clear that nothing is truly over, because Victor Newman never forgets and never forgives, and Kane and Phyllis, though alive, are now marked, trapped in a web of consequences that could snap at any moment, making this confrontation not an ending but the beginning of a darker, more dangerous chapter in The Young and the Restless, one where every character will feel the ripple effects of Victor's choice, and where the question isn't whether blood will be spilled, but when. The aftermath of that terrifying standoff doesn't bring relief so much as it unleashes a deeper, more suffocating dread, because once Victor Newman walks away, without pulling the trigger, Kane and Phyllis quickly realize that survival under Victor's shadow can be far more terrifying than death itself, and the silence he leaves behind feels louder than any gunshot, pressing in on them as the reality sinks in that Victor hasn't forgiven, hasn't forgotten, and hasn't finished, not by a long shot. And as Kane steadies himself against the wall, sweat on his brow and his heart still hammering, he knows that Victor's restraint wasn't mercy but calculation, the kind that precedes devastation, while Phyllis, normally quick with biting sarcasm or strategic deflection, finds herself unnervingly quiet, her mind racing through every secret she's ever buried, every enemy she's ever made. Because she understands better than anyone that Victor Newman doesn't retaliate impulsively, he dismantles lives piece by piece. And the worst part is not knowing when or how the first blow will land. Kane breaks the silence first, his voice low and shaken as he admits that they're in more danger now than they were with that gun pointed at them, because Victor has given himself time, and time is Victor Newman's deadliest weapon, and Phyllis snaps back, telling him that his so-called insurance better be worth the risk they just took. Because if Victor discovers they exaggerated even one detail, they're finished. But Kane insists the secret is real, that the betrayal runs deep, involving a trusted Newman insider, someone who's been quietly feeding information, manipulating assets, and positioning themselves for a power grab. And as Kane explains the scope of it, Phyllis feels a chill, realizing that this isn't just leverage, it's a bomb. One that could destroy Victor's empire from the inside if it ever sees the light of day. Meanwhile, Victor returns to Newman Enterprises with his face set in stone, replaying every word Kane and Phyllis said, every flicker of fear in their eyes, every implication of betrayal, and though he tells himself he doesn't believe them, doubt worms its way into his thoughts, because experience has taught him that the most dangerous threats often come from those closest to him, and as he looks out over Genoa City from his office window, Victor feels the familiar rage bubbling beneath his calm exterior, the fury of a man who refuses to be outmaneuvered. especially by people he considers beneath him, and he begins making calls, setting quiet investigations in motion, because if there is even a chance that Kane's information is true, Victor intends to uncover it on his terms and punish everyone involved. Elsewhere, the ripple effects begin almost immediately as whispers circulate through Genoa City, subtle shifts in alliances. Tense conversations cut short when certain names are mentioned, and a sense that something catastrophic is looming just beneath the surface, and Nick Newman, already burdened by fractured loyalties and unresolved anger toward his father, senses the shift, feeling that familiar dread that comes whenever Victor starts moving pieces on the board, while Victoria notices the sudden audits, the unexpected reviews, and the way Victor's gaze lingers on her just a second too long, making her wonder whether she's being tested or suspected, and Adam, ever the outsider, smirks at the chaos, knowing better than anyone that Victor's paranoia often leads to self-destruction. Back in the shadows, Kane and Phyllis argue about their next move, with Kane insisting they need to stay united, that if Victor senses even a crack between them he'll exploit it, while Phyllis bristles at the idea of trusting Kane, reminding him that his ambition has burned her before, but both know they're trapped together now, bound by mutual guilt and shared danger. And as Phyllis reaches out to an old contact, someone who can help her verify the information Kane claims to have, she realizes that the truth might be even uglier than she imagined, because the alleged betrayal isn't just financial or corporate, it's personal, involving secrets that could tear families apart and expose long-buried scandals that no one in Genoa City is prepared to face. Victor, meanwhile, begins to tighten the noose, orchestrating confrontations designed to flush out the traitor, testing loyalties with subtle traps and watching closely to see who flinches, and the tension within the Newman family escalates as old wounds reopen, accusations fly, and trust erodes, with Nick confronting Victor about his heavy-handed tactics and warning him that he's pushing everyone away, while Victor coldly reminds his son that weakness invites betrayal and that everything he's built is under threat, making it clear that he will sacrifice any relationship if it means protecting his empire. As days pass, the pressure mounts on Kane, who starts to unravel under the constant fear of exposure, snapping at allies and making reckless moves that threaten to reveal his hand, while Phyllis, more controlled but no less desperate, begins crafting a contingency plan, quietly preparing an escape route, because part of her knows that when Victor finally strikes, there may be no outrunning the fallout. And as she watches Kane spiral, she wonders whether she's aligned herself with the wrong partner yet again, questioning whether Kane will crack and take her down with him. The inevitable collision comes when Victor finally uncovers a piece of the truth, just enough to confirm that Kane wasn't lying, but not enough to reveal the full scope of the betrayal, and this partial revelation only fuels Victor's wrath, because he hates uncertainty almost as much as betrayal, and he responds by escalating, making a very public move that sends shockwaves through Genoa City, a power play that destabilizes the market, humiliates a trusted ally, and sends a clear message that no one is safe. And as the fallout spreads, Kane and Phyllis realize that their leverage is slipping, because Victor is proving he's willing to burn everything down to root out his enemies. In a desperate bid to regain control, Kane pushes Phyllis to release part of the information they have, just enough to slow Victor down, but Phyllis resists, knowing that once they pull that trigger, there's no going back, that exposing the secret will unleash consequences far beyond their control, potentially destroying innocent lives along with guilty ones, and the argument becomes explosive, exposing cracks in their alliance that Victor would relish exploiting, while unbeknownst to them, Victor has already begun closing in, having traced a financial anomaly directly back to Kane, and as Victor pieces together the puzzle, his expression darkens, because now it's not just about betrayal, it's about humiliation, about the audacity of Kane Ashby thinking he could outplay Victor Newman and live. The tension reaches a fever pitch as Victor arranges a private meeting, one that Kane and Phyllis know they can't refuse, and as they enter the room, the atmosphere is thick with menace, Victor seated calmly, as if he holds all the cards, and this time there's no gun on the table, no overt threat, because Victor doesn't need one. His power alone is enough, and he informs them that he knows they've been hiding something, that he's closer than ever to the truth and that their time is running out, forcing Kane to make a reckless gamble by revealing a shocking detail.